Darth Vader killed every Jedi he found after Order 66, but the one he wanted most never appeared. He hunted for 19 years. He found dozens of survivors, and he killed every one. But his former master, Obi-Wan Kenobi, stayed completely invisible until the day he chose to reveal himself. What kept Kenobi hidden was not luck, not distance, and not the size of the galaxy. It was something the Empire's entire hunting machine was never designed to catch. After the fall of the Jedi Order, the Empire did not rely on Vader alone to track survivors. It built an intelligence machine. According to the Imperial Handbook, a reference work used in both canon and legends, Imperial intelligence operated through specialized divisions. Signal teams monitored carrier waves, surveillance units identified suspects, infiltration agents went deep undercover, and the Imperial comlinks scanned communications across every channel in the galaxy, flagging troublesome words and phrases. Running parallel to all of it, the Imperial Security Bureau conducted its own ideological surveillance. Every piece of the system was designed to detect networks, communications, and behavioral traces. At the center of the Jedi hunting operation sat the Inquisitorius, a group of former Jedi turned hunters who reported directly to Emperor Palpatine. In the canon comic Darth Vader Issue 6, Palpatine personally briefed Vader on their founding. The Emperor explained that while most Jedi died during the Purge, only the luckiest, deadliest, strongest, and most deceptive had survived, and he tasked Vader and the Inquisitors with hunting them as the greatest threat to the Galactic Empire. But the real question is not whether the Empire had the tools to find a hiding Jedi. The question is why none of those tools worked on Obi-Wan Kenobi. In the first episode of the canon Obi-Wan Kenobi series, the Grand Inquisitor walked into a saloon on Tatooine, wondering whether a hiding Jedi would help someone in danger and risk exposure, or stay hidden. Moments later, a young man gave himself away by using the Force to stop a thrown knife. The Inquisitors seized him. The tactic worked exactly as designed. Create a threat, wait for a Jedi's protective instincts to kick in, and catch them in the act. Reva, the third sister, pushed the same approach even further. She threatened civilians, cut off a woman's hand, and cornered Owen Lars and his family, all to bait a hidden Jedi into stepping forward. Kenobi was nearby the entire time. He hid in the stable and did nothing. In the canon novel Inquisitor: Rise of the Red Blade, the Grand Inquisitor briefed his team before their first mission, warning them not to give captured Jedi a chance to speak or try to persuade them. His instructions assumed targets would be active, talking, trying to recruit. Inquisitors were rewarded for bringing in rogue Jedi, artifacts, or knowledge of the Force. Reva herself later admitted that the Inquisitors had been looking in the wrong places. Because standard tactics failed, she devised her own scheme. Captured Leia Organa specifically to bait Kenobi out of hiding, betting that the old Jedi would not be able to stop himself from intervening. But one Jedi defeated the entire system, not by fighting it, but by giving it nothing to find. Every Jedi the Empire caught after Order 66 had done something recognizable. They helped refugees, protected Force-sensitive children, joined resistance cells, or fought the Empire openly. In the Legends novel Rise and Fall of Darth Vader, Vader's earliest missions involved tracking surviving Jedi across the galaxy. He investigated every reported sighting, traveled to remote worlds, and left no survivors. Within 1 month of Palpatine becoming Emperor, stories circulated that the Dark Lord had tracked down a group of 50 Jedi and killed them all by himself. Eyewitnesses described him using Jedi-like powers and strangling his opponents. Not a single report ever led to Kenobi or Yoda. Meanwhile, General Kenobi stopped existing entirely. In the canon Obi-Wan Kenobi series, he worked at a meat processing factory and watched over young Luke Skywalker from a distance. When a surviving Jedi named Nari begged for his help, the former Jedi Master refused. He urged Nari to bury his lightsaber in the desert. He told them the fight was done and the time of the Jedi was over. Shortly after, Nari was killed by the Inquisitors and his body was hung in town as a warning, direct proof of what happened to Jedi who remain visible. The Legends novel Life and Legend of Obi-Wan Kenobi confirms the same mindset from another angle. When Kenobi learned through a HoloNet broadcast that Vader was hunting Jedi on Kashyyyk, his reaction was not sympathy, but frustration. He could not understand why surviving Jedi kept drawing attention to themselves. Kenobi watched Jabba's enforcers beat a moisture farmer and resisted every urge to intervene. He was no one. Beyond the Dune Sea, surviving on snake stew and meditating among the Bantha, he became known as Old Ben, an eccentric hermit of no importance. Over the years, the galaxy itself forgot the Jedi existed. Most people who remembered anything about them considered the Order to be an ancient cult devoted to some all-powerful energy that had probably never been real. Their heroic stories were dismissed as fantasy. The Empire was perfectly content to let those stories die out on their own. But becoming invisible came at a cost that would have broken most Jedi. Kenobi did not just change his name, he abandoned everything that made him who he was, and every sacrifice traced back to a single purpose. If you want to see more videos like this one, a quick subscribe means you will always be first to know. On the flight to Tatooine carrying the infant Luke, Kenobi nearly gave himself away. He reflexively caught a thrown bottle mid-air before it could hit the baby. A Dug remarked that he moved fast for a human. Kenobi immediately used a mind trick to make the Dug forget and swore to himself that just one wrong move was all it would take. He would have to be more careful. Every choice from that point forward served a single mission. Luke survives. Yoda's final instructions were direct, ordering that the boy be sent to Tatooine, to his family. Kenobi agreed to watch over Anakin's son, taking on a permanent assignment as guardian against any interference from the Sith. In Skywalker, A Family at War, Bail Organa provided untraceable credits for the journey, and they traveled to Tatooine through an indirect route on a series of public transports, leaving no trail. To further cover his tracks, Organa publicly confirmed that Obi-Wan Kenobi was dead. Even Owen Lars worked to keep the Guardian away. In the Legends novel, he confronted Kenobi about his twice-daily visits, calling them a bad idea. Owen warned that if the Empire ever tracked the old hermit down, they would find him living in the family's backyard. In canon, Owen went further still, burying family tombstones so Luke would never become fascinated with the past or follow in his father's footsteps. Owen buried the past to protect his nephew. Kenobi had already buried himself. When a fallen Jedi named Asherad Het led Tusken Raiders to threaten the Lars homestead, Kenobi fought him in a lightsaber duel. But even then, his mindset was clear. He was not fighting for his own life, he was fighting for Luke's. Years later, as a Force ghost in the canon anthology, From a Certain Point of View, Return of the Jedi, Kenobi told Luke directly that the twins had been hidden from their father at birth because the Emperor understood that any offspring of Anakin would be a threat to him. But even a perfect hiding strategy should not have worked, because there was one person in the galaxy who should have been able to find him regardless. Darth Vader himself, the galaxy's greatest Jedi hunter, had a blind spot exactly where Kenobi was hiding, and it was not a tactical failure. It was psychological. In Legends, Qui-Gon Jinn's spirit told the exiled Jedi directly that the core of Anakin still living inside Vader understood Tatooine as the source of nearly everything that caused him pain. The Sith Lord would never willingly set foot on the planet, if only out of fear of reawakening the person he used to be. Tatooine was the worst planet in the galaxy for Vader. Every defining wound in Anakin's life happened there. His years as a slave, the death of his mother at the hands of Tusken Raiders, and the revenge he took on an entire village afterward, the first step on his path to the dark side. Vader did not process that pain and move past it. He fed on it. In canon, his private meditation routine involved sitting unmasked in his chamber, staring at his own burned and ruined face, conscious of the stumps of his legs, the ruin of his arms, the constant pain in his flesh. He meditated not for peace, but to sharpen his anger. He considered his defeat on Mustafar as something he had always been fated to suffer. While Vader believed this pain made him stronger, his master knew it made him uncontrollable. The Sith Master recalled Vader as a boy, freshly torn from his mother, calling it a flaw that the Jedi recognized for the danger it represented. Even in death, Anakin could not escape the planet. His spirit relived burying Shmi, the heat of 2 suns on his neck, the grit of sand between his fingers. He remembered swearing he would become powerful enough to save people, and confessed that instead, he had done the opposite. In Legends, when the Tan of Four fled towards Tatooine, The Dark Lord clenched his teeth behind the mask. He even considered whether watching the Death Star reduce Tatooine to dust might bring him some pleasure, a possibility he did not rule out. Because of that blind spot, the most important question about Kenobi's location went unasked for 19 years. Only after the Death Star was destroyed did Vader finally wonder how long his old master had been on Tatooine and why. In Legends, he asked that question only after droids and a Corellian freighter led him back to the Sand Planet, the first time he had been forced to think about the connection. In canon, Vader eventually traced Luke's origins to the cradle of the Skywalker family. Ironically, it was the first place Luke was recorded as living and the last place the Dark Lord had thought to look. When he finally arrived, confronted by his own haunted past, he found no real answers, only pain and rage. Vader's trauma was one factor, but he was not the only one who stopped looking. Over 19 years, the entire Empire gradually lost interest in a ghost who never reappeared. After Order 66, the Emperor's priorities shifted to consolidating power, dissolving the Senate, building the Death Star, and establishing oversectors governed by Grand Moffs. Entire sections of Imperial doctrine focused on governance and military expansion. In Legends, the Dark Lord was assigned to expand the Imperial Navy, enforce new laws, and supervise secret operations across multiple worlds, from Nogri to Falleen. Meanwhile, the Rebel Alliance grew into a real and constant threat, demanding resources that once might have gone towards tracking a missing Jedi who produced no intelligence. Even the Hunters began to accept it. The fifth brother told Reva bluntly that Kenobi was gone and that they had spent the past 10 years looking for him. He treated her obsession with finding the old Jedi Master as beneath them. 19 years of silence turned a missing Jedi into a closed case. But there was one more factor working in Kenobi's favor, and it was the planet itself. Tatooine was invisible to Imperial search models. The planet was a small, remote, and poor desert world, controlled by the Hutts with no major Imperial presence. The Junlin Wastes, where the Hermit lived, were beyond any patrol route, inhabited only by Tusken Raiders and Krayt Dragons. When Vader finally sensed Kenobi's presence aboard the Death Star, 19 years after Mustafar, his shock was genuine. He recognized a presence he had not felt since their last duel, and the realization hit him. Kenobi was alive. Tarkin dismissed the idea outright, insisting that the Jedi were extinct. The trail had gone so cold that even Vader's closest allies did not believe Kenobi could still exist. By the era of Return of the Jedi, Vader's obsession had shifted entirely to Luke. Palpatine reflected that Vader would be more his than ever after Luke's death, noting that without a son, Vader's legacy would have to lie with the Emperor alone. Outdated systems, a broken mind, and an empire looking elsewhere, none of it was the real reason Kenobi survived. The real reason was something none of Vader's tools were ever built to detect. Every Imperial strategy, every Inquisitor tactic, and every intelligence system assumed the same thing, that Obi-Wan Kenobi would continue to behave like Obi-Wan Kenobi. He did not. Yet even in exile, he never fully disappeared from the galaxy's story. Kenobi's spirit had followed Leia's progress carefully, watching recordings of her Senate speeches and recognizing the Skywalker fire in her words. He was present, but unseen, the exact opposite of every Jedi the Empire knew how to detect. His Dagobah reflection reveals the internal cost. The old master questioned himself, wondering if he had been a fool for thinking he could train another impulsive Jedi. He carried that doubt in total silence, never once breaking cover. He became something the system was never designed to find. But Tatooine had one more secret Vader never lived long enough to uncover, so watch this video to find out.